This kitchen was so dirty that it not only made Chef Ramsay, but his entire crew sick. I'm talking about the situation at Bellard Diner, before Chef Ramsay worked his magic and turned it around, of course. This diner, smack in the heart of New York's Queensboro, was originally in the hands of a married couple and had been serving since 1965. However, it's a fact of life that people get old, and that's why their sons Cal and Peter took over the reins. But don't expect the usual tight-knit sibling bond here. Those two brothers weren't exactly the best of buddies.
There's food behind because they're not grabbing the right
when they
thing.
come out. You got the ticket?
I think if I wasn't here, the diner would already be closed.
It seems like one of those siblings was all for keeping the family business going, but the other? Yeah, he couldn't care less. But hey, let's first talk about how the diner came into existence in the first place. Archie, Cal's dad, immigrated from Greece to the USA when he was just 17 years old. He worked hard for that diner, day in and day out, starting off his career as a humble dishwasher. Things were really tough for Archie, but he refused to give up. But unlike Archie, Peter wasn't as motivated.
He's not here.
No.
But he's supposed to be running the place.
In tandem with me.
So he doesn't commit to the business at all.
At all.
Yikes, Cal seemed to be the only one doing his job here, while Peter, on the other hand, was busy at his fiance's restaurant. Like, restaurants are a big responsibility. Splitting your time between two is never gonna work. But what he revealed next was the final straw for Chef Ramsay.
50 grand a year allowance.
An allowance? What is he, 12? That's totally messed up. No wonder the diner wasn't doing well.
Oh my God.
It looked like the kitchen hadn't been in the same room as a sponge in years. Chef Ramsay didn't hold back one bit when he described it, and honestly, I think comparing it to Saw was totally justified.
It's like a scene out of Saw.
I mean, I probably would have hurled being on the same block as this place. But the basement was the real shocker. It was so disgustingly dirty, I wouldn't be surprised if the entire place was covered with mold. And this makes me wonder, if the basement was that nasty, the ingredients had to have been just as awful, right? Well, after that disappointing lunch service, Chef Ramsay was curious to know where they stored their produce. And let me tell you now, the entrance to that basement couldn't have been creepier.
It's down there.
Yeah, stepping into the basement took some serious courage. There were a treasure trove of horrifying secrets for Chef Ramsay to uncover there. It wasn't just about the surface level griminess, the issue went way deeper than that. I mean, that oven was practically swimming in liquid grease, and it was in dire need of a major scrub down. And their storage room? Ugh, that room had water all over the place, and it seemed like nobody had bothered to mop it up for a decade. But here's the kicker, that basement was massive. It was so damn big that Chef Ramsay thought he was in some kind of maze.
If I get lost down here, somebody send help.
I'm not joking here. Chef Ramsay actually got lost in the ingredients section. I can only imagine how stomach-churning that experience must have been for him. This whole situation was beyond gross.
Nothing labeled. Everything is uncovered, no dates.
That's just nasty. And don't even get me started on the fridge. It was practically a breeding ground for a whole bunch of germs, not to mention the stuff that was in there. Now, look, before you think you've seen the worst, let me remind you that we're only a couple minutes into the video here. We're not even close to being done. If you think I'm exaggerating, then wait till you see what Chef Ramsay uncovered next.
What the is that?
It's really no surprise that the famous chef was grossed out. I mean, this was just a health hazard waiting to happen, and if you think that the show was making a big deal about it for the drama, just wait till you hear about first-hand experience from one of the viewers. This viewer right here spilled the beans on just how filthy that basement truly was. Seriously though, you don't need a detective to figure out why Chef Ramsay was so grossed out. And let's not forget that the show has come under fire several times for amping up the drama for better ratings. But what this viewer has to say is proof that, at least this time around, it's as real as it gets. It's not every day that viewers get to see the raw, unvarnished truth behind the scenes, right? But when this viewer happened to walk through the kitchen, although he doesn't specify who exactly, he says that he found the owner smoking a cigarette. I don't know what's clearer than that, but this is evidence that they didn't give a shit about cleanliness at all. I wonder how he got access to the basement. Either way, it looks like it was no different than the state that Chef Ramsay found it in. The viewer continued, pointing out that old clamshells were hanging from buckets out in the open. He also happened to spot the cooling tower, which was also smeared with a murky brown layer of gonk. No wonder he wanted everybody to steer clear of this place. And it turns out it wasn't just the basement. If you pay attention during the episode, it's pretty clear the whole place wasn't much better.
Oh, hell.
But I need you to understand that that wasn't the end of it. Apparently, it even extended to the restrooms. And although we didn't get to see them on the show, another customer made a sacrifice for us to get the scoop on the situation. He described the scene as absolutely vile. And apparently, this person is a regular customer, because he ran into a nasty toilet on 2 separate occasions. If you thought that was revolting, the women's restroom wasn't any better. This one woman came across a nightmarish scene when she found shit, like literal shit, smeared all over the toilet paper roll. And this loser who did it actually put that mess back onto the dispenser. Like, I don't even know what to say, that's so disgusting. Imagine you're at this place for a pleasant evening, hoping for some pleasant food, though that's a whole other can of worms, and this is what you get? I'd lose my appetite in an instant and get out of that place right then and there. No looking back. But hold on, the story doesn't end there. This dude here knows what's up in the diner. This viewer, going by the name Supermarket Popular 17, claimed that he lived just across the street from the restaurant. While he wasn't a big fan of the diner and only visited the place to pick up some eggs and bacon, every single time that he walked in, he was welcomed by a terrifying sight. Remember the Lobster Tank?
Lobster in a diner. There we are.
Yeah, the same tank Chef Ramsay picked the lobster for his lunch from. So this viewer found lobsters eating each other, and sometimes even found multiple lobsters laying dead in the tank. Ugh. Like, there's a reason why restaurants keep lobsters alive before cooking them. When they die, they let off some real nasty stuff. Now, do you guys remember the infamous lobster tank that sent a customer to the hospital?
A dead lobster. Everything else in there, they've been feeding off that lobster. Then they become full of bacteria.
Which makes me wonder, what's the point of having a lobster tank when you can't even maintain it? Well, obviously the customer was disgusted. However, despite complaining about the ghastly state of it on every visit, the staff would just remove the carcass and continue on with their daily routine like it was nothing. That's it. No wonder this place was being run into the ground. And now that we've seen the stuff that the cameras never had the pleasure of capturing, let's dive back into the other atrocities that Chef Ramsay was about to uncover. First up, let's take a peek into the meat fridge, and fair warning, what he stumbled upon next could possibly be the nastiest thing you've ever seen.
Oh my god. I don't think anyone's got any idea what is going on here.
Yup, what you're looking at is a whole month's worth of meat sitting in rotting liquid, waiting to be whipped up into someone's meal. You gotta hand it to Chef Ramsay though, the guy's got nerves of steel and a stomach of iron. Again, I don't think I'd last 15 seconds here. I mean, just look at this.
Oh my god.
If that isn't revolting, I don't know what is. Just imagine how long that chicken had been sitting in that tub in order to ooze a bucket full of that slimy liquid. Chef Ramsay was clearly on a rampage. He wanted to get his hands on every corner of the walk-in refrigerator, and the more that he looked, the more that he found.
No.
Damn, they really came out swinging with this new season, didn't they? But seriously, could things get any more revolting than this? It's downright disgusting that they had the audacity to keep running the place in spite of all this quite literal shit. I'm wondering, did the brothers who owned the place have any clue about what was going on back there? Now, let's not forget that Cal claimed that he, himself, had paid a visit to this hellhole just 2 days prior to Chef Ramsay's visit. If this was the situation with his so-called routine inspection, then I wonder what horrors would happen if they neglected it completely. Clearly, Cal wasn't a good liar. It would have been better for him to simply accept the negligence and promise to be responsible in the future. But no, he wasn't in any mood to take the blame. What's more, after the episode aired and the reality of the diner was out in the open, both the brothers stepped in to do some much needed damage control. Trying his very best to save face, Cal took to Instagram to explain the situation.
My biggest fear is the chicken. You know, that's something, it doesn't happen in here. You know, we have 10,000 pounds of food downstairs, stuff goes bad, it gets thrown away.
To justify the disgusting sight that we saw on the show, Cal said that tons and tons of meat is brought to the diner, and sometimes, well, things just go bad. You can't help it, right? And no, I'm not making this up. Take a listen for yourselves.
It's a place we have 10,000 pounds of food downstairs. Stuff goes bad, it gets thrown away, you know? For it to be there and be found and, you know, to be shoved in my face, it was super embarrassing. You know, my brother, like we've changed a lot since then to make sure that never happens again.
What's more, to emphasize his claims, he added saying that he would feed his own 1-year-old daughter with the same food. Oh god, come on, really? The brothers clearly were chalking up the whole nightmare as being a one-time fluke. But you know what they say, the proof is in the pudding, or in this case, the chicken. Though that nasty slime does look like pudding. Anyway, it's clear that something was seriously amiss. It's honestly insane to me how far some people can just slip into denial. But Chef Ramsay just wasn't gonna let it slide. It's one thing to hear about these kitchen nightmares, but to actually be there and witness it all firsthand, that's insane. And speaking of Chef Ramsay, the man's known for his fiery temper and brutally honest reactions, but he took that credo to a whole nother level here. Cal went on to promise that they've come a long way as owners since the episode was aired. He went on to add that they now had better equipment and undertook better maintenance at the diner. On top of that, this is what he had to say about the food.
And then finally, the last big change for our customers is the smaller menu. Higher quality ingredients, better recipes, and having the food taste much better than a larger menu.
Well, I truly hope they stick to that promise. But have you noticed how Peter was so tight-lipped throughout the Coming Clean post on their restaurant page? Yeah, so I guess not everything has changed. It still looks like Cal is leading the way and Peter's taking the back seat as usual. You know, Ramsay's had his fair share of stomach-churning moments over the years, with all that raw and overcooked chicken and a never-ending supply of crab cakes that he's been served up throughout 7 seasons on the show. And it looks like season 8 is gonna be no different. Now, let's circle back to Belair Diner, shall we? Okay, this place has had its fair share of visits from the NYC Department of Health between 2017 and 2020. Oh, believe me, they've had their highs and lows, and I'm not just talking about their menu. The health inspection demerits have been all over the place, with their lowest score being a solid 0 and their highest reaching a not-so-great 42. If you're into statistics, the median health inspection demerit based on their history is 14.5. But here's the kicker, you can't help but notice how things took a nosedive in 2020. Yeah, we all know that the pandemic threw a wrench into the works of a lot of places, but it seems like even after the dust settled, things at Belair Diner just weren't getting any better. 2020 hit them real bad. 3 years later, it's a little disheartening to see that the downward trend didn't get a course correction. It's a classic reminder that maintaining hygiene and food safety standards in the restaurant biz is a year-round gig, pandemic or not. You can't just hit pause on cleanliness. It seems like Belair Diner learned that lesson the hard way. This joint has a bit of history, you know? It's not the first time they've shut their doors, and not just for remodeling. Back in 2007, they pulled the same stunt, closed down, gave the place a facelift, and reopened. But here's the kicker, they've gone and done it again, and this time it's for a different reason, health code violations. So when the city inspectors swung by the 57-year-old place on 21st Street and Broadway, they didn't like what they saw. They found some unwelcome guests of the creepy crawly variety, food not chilled at the right temperature, and a whole bunch of, and this is the technical term, no-nos. The city's health department spokesperson spilled the beans to patch about the sorry state of affairs. According to them, the health department's got a big job, making sure the food joints in town play by the rules and don't turn our stomachs into a war zone. And in this case, they weren't too thrilled with what they found, so they slapped the dreaded close sign on the restaurant until they could get their act together. There's even a snapshot from a Reddit post making the rounds, showing the city's closure notice proudly hanging on the diner's front door. And guess what? The restaurant chimed in with its own sign, claiming that it's temporarily closed for deep cleaning. Deep cleaning, huh? Sounds like they had their work cut out for them. But the story continued in the customer reviews. And that's where our fellow diner goer talked about their experience. You can bet that it wasn't a glowing review given the circumstances. It's like an online confessional booth for folks to share their foodie nightmares. I found this review where this customer shed light on the poor quality of the food, shitty management, and servers who had no passion for their job. He claimed that he was once a loyal client, but not anymore. Hey, I can't blame him. Will the owners really put the necessary effort to turn this place around? Well, it looks like they're definitely working towards that goal. Thanks to Chef Ramsay's guidance and some serious elbow grease from the team, Belair Diner is now ready to welcome customers once again. they've got a fresh menu and a new look, all thanks to some major revamping. And going by the latest reviews on Yelp, most customers seem to be pleased with the changes. But this is where we arrive at the main question. Will they stick to the new standards Chef Ramsay's instilled them with, or will they fall behind and revert to their old practices like all the other restaurants? Only time will tell, I guess. Now, I'm gonna keep a close eye on all the restaurants covered in this new season, and I'll make sure to keep bringing you the latest information that comes out about them. So make sure to keep the support coming. All you have to do is drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And if you happen to swing by any of these restaurants from Season 8, make sure to drop your experience in the comment section down below. Plus, be sure to join me on my channel's Discord server so we can stay up to date. And guess what? It's free. Now, for those of you who are always looking for something extra, I got an exclusive server just for you. But before you head out, don't forget to check my latest video right here. Trust me, it's even crazier.